for the most part, it is changing hearts and minds. It's not about, is our catalog good? Is our graphics awesome? Can you spin the car around? Can you put stuff on it to see what it looks like? It's about, my sales department doesn't want to do it, or my GM's new and he doesn't want to do accessories. I mean, all we are is just battling objections to what seems to be such a natural fit at the time that you are selling the car. I mean, it's 100% of the opportunity to sell accessories on a brand new car. You're not competing against anyone. As soon as that car rolls off the curb, you are now competing with everybody.
Welcome to the Strategy with Jason podcast. Tune in for everything you need to know to stay in the know regarding the automotive industry. Here's your host, Jason Harris.
Hey, what's going on, Podcast Nation? It is Jason Harris here, and thank you for joining me on another episode of The Drive, Las Vegas edition. We are here in beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada at the Digital Headquarters. Okay, all right, actually, maybe not. You know what? When you come to Vegas as many times as we probably have.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, all right, I'll go with you. Maybe beautiful's not the right word. But I have David with Insog with me. David, how you doing, man?
Doing awesome. How are you?
Good, I'm good. Thanks for taking the time to come jam with me. We got a great topic, some fun stuff we're going to talk about today. But before we kind of get into that, I love kicking off these podcasts with a little origin story, because I'm fascinated because, no one just wakes up one day and just goes, yeah, I'm going to be in the automotive industry. No. So let's kick it off at how you got started in this crazy little world we call the automotive.
Sure. Yeah. If you had given me a survey in college and you had listed out 20 businesses and left car dealership off, I still would not have selected that. Right. So yeah, my origin story is kind of fun, I think. I was a journalism minor, English major, journalism minor, and had all intentions of going into the newspaper business. Remember those things, the newspapers? And in college, I decided that being in the newspaper was awesome and what I wanted to do, and to get to where I was in college as an editor-in-chief and running a twice a week nursepaper, to get into the real world and be that editor-in-chief at a high level was going to take like 30 years. And I didn't have the patience for that. So I got into marketing, and that led into new media design and web development. And as an English major, I was pretty good at JavaScript somehow, some way. And it blossomed into a beginning of a career designing web pages and creating new media stuff. Well, through connections and family connections, I got introduced to a distributorship in Florida that wanted to have a website.
Okay.
And the first meeting was hilarious. They were like, yeah, we want this page and we want it to have all 150 logos of all of the brands that we promote.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, so you want a page of logos. This is going to be an awesome project. So what it turned into actually was they had a catalog of air conditioning parts on CD-ROM. Remember those?
Yeah.
And it was formatted in an Access database. I've lost half the audience. And they asked me to review. So hey, how should we do this differently? And it turned into, well, who cares if it's on a CD-ROM or if it's in an Access database? You've heard of the web, right? So let's put it out on the web. Let's put it out on the web.
There we go.
So I helped this company launch the very first air conditioning radiator catalog online. It was called Prime Source Auto.
Okay.
And that is what really started my career in the automotive industry. And it led into, through a bunch of I usually tell this story with beer, so I mean, I'm fast forwarding through a lot of really good stuff, but yeah, so it led to accessories, and I was with this company. They ended up buying my company in 2001, my customer, and we joined forces, and they came to me after we had this whole Prime Source Auto thing up and running, and then we actually started working on an AC Delco catalog at the same time. And they came to
I
me
remember
like,
those.
hey, we have a spreadsheet of GM accessories. Can you do anything with this? I was like, yes, leave me alone.
Yes.
And so we turned that into what was the very original GMaccessories.net. And we were the very first GM Accessories catalog online. There was another competitor that was out there. They didn't have an online presence. We were the first online one. And that was back in 2001 and 2002. So I spent the first,
early,
2001
awesome.
until 2008, we were the GM Accessories catalog for all dealerships and ADIs, these distributors out there.
Mm-hmm.
So it was an awesome time. It was a really fun time. It was, we had 42 distributors out there that were GM Accessories distributors. They were all customers of Insignia Group, except one. There was one holdout, there had to be that one.
There had to be the one.
and that's how I got into the car business. And I've, been here ever since. So 2001 was really kind of the introduction. And, Insignia Group has made its, continue to make its way through all kinds of thick and thin. And here we are in our 20-something year of helping dealerships sell accessories. So yeah.
Well, and I love I gotta be honest with you, David. I don't get to talk about accessories as much but accessories was such a huge part of my career as a salesperson, and then a big part of my success as a dealer principal.
You are a rare breed.
Well, you know what? It was funny. I
didn't have more of you.
I remember I was working at a GM dealership. So funny you say that. 299, 2000. Yep, that's when I started.
Yeah.
And I remember selling this truck, and this guy wanted tonneau cover, and he wanted a lift kit, and he wanted 35-inch tires, and I was like, a young salesperson, I'm like, yeah. Okay, sure. Yeah. Well, I take this list on a chicken scratch on a piece of paper to my parts manager, and it's just.
Exactly.
Just like, okay.
You are a giant pain in my
you are a pain in my ass. But sure enough, he did. Sat around and I waited because I didn't know any better, right? I just grabbed a coffee and waited for him to fill out and give me the quote. Brought it back, sold it. And then a few days later, I get my commission off this deal. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
For doing that?
Yeah.
And I was hook, line, and sink.
Yeah.
I became the accessory guy.
Awesome.
Right?
Yeah.
I just knew every single accessory that was possibly available. And I did. My average transaction was over $2,000 accessories per unit sold.
Wow, that's solid.
Some obviously much lower, some obviously much bigger.
Sure,
right?
yeah.
But that was the average. And so I made a lot of money off accessories. So then when I became, fast forward, 12 years later, became a dealer principal, I bought into a Mitsubishi dealership. Like young dealer principals will do. That's a good starting franchise, right? And I just loved accessories. And you know what? The thing with Mitsubishi is you had the 10-year warranty, right? So warranty was a little tough to sell when you're already getting a 10-year powertrain, right?
Yeah.
So I had to default to accessories.
Yeah.
And I did. I loved doing it. I made a lot of money doing it. It was just, but it was fun because for me, accessories really became an experience around the purchase, right? Let's make this your vehicle, your vehicle.
Yeah.
But to your point, a lot of dealers haven't embraced that.
Yeah, I mean,
as
you're
a part of their
checking.
experience.
I mean, you're checking all the boxes that we scratch our head every day and wonder, why is this business so hard? Why is Insignia Group and what we try to infuse in dealerships such a slog? I mean, it's been a 20-year slog. I mean, there were some good days and there's some really bad days, but for the most part, it is changing hearts and minds. It's not about, is our catalog good? Is our graphics awesome? Can you spin the car around? Can you put stuff on it to see what it looks like? It's about, my sales department doesn't want to do it, or my GM's new and he doesn't want to do accessories. I mean, all we are is just battling objections to what seems to be such a natural fit at the time that you are selling the car. I mean, it's 100% of the opportunity to sell accessories on a brand new car. You're not competing against anyone. As soon as that car rolls off the curb, you are now competing with everybody.
Well, you know what I think what it is for a lot of people? It's an operational thing.
Yeah. Very much.
Well, there's an operational thing, and then I think there's a political thing too, because I still think a lot of dealerships are not. There's a lot that don't, but there's a lot of dealerships out there that still operate in silos.
Yep. Yes.
All right. Yep. And and that started because that's just how they presented on a P&L.
Yep.
You know, you had your different departments, different P&Ls, then you had your full P&L for the whole dealership. And I think because of that, that's how a lot of ownership viewed it.
Yes.
And, you know, the handoff or the integration of these silos was just not something on their list, right? I move metal and I service metal.
Right. Well, and you have to get parts, service, and sales all to agree,
Yes.
all to be on the same page, and all to be operating with a standard set of procedures.
Yes.
Right? And so that is a big part of what we do, what we've done for a very long time. From 2002 to 2008, our growth curve was like that crazy awesome you saw it, right? I mean, you see you've, like examples of it. In 2008, we all know what happened. So that became a very terrifying time. We went from signing up 80 to 100 stores a month to losing. No, let me flip it over. We were signing up about 40 new stores a month. And then in December of 2008, we lost 100 stores in 1 month. 100 cancellations. It was terrifying, right? So from 2008 until 2012, when the recovery was happening, we were just hanging on for dear life. We were doing everything we could do to diversify and just survive. And we did. And in about 2011, 2012, we signed up some OEMs. We launched nationally with Kia and Hyundai. And what we recognized is, okay, the solution is pretty much the same. I mean, we've continued to enhance the visualization.
Yep.
You know, we've added new features. There's a lot more customization you can make from a dealership standpoint.
It's gotten way more visual. Yeah,
but they're just not getting it. You know, the store just isn't getting it. And we were equally terrified because, okay, we just signed up Kia. We should go sign up every single store in the country. And it was like, it was like this response, sorta. And so
because it requires process.
Because they were lacking the process. And so 2012, we made this ginormous change in our whole approach. We were now a consulting company.
Oh, see, there you go. Yes.
Oh, and we have software to help you.
Yes.
Right? We came in to say, we're going to change your process. Oh, but we have software that help you change the process. It wasn't, hey, we've got a great catalog and we can do this and it's all cool and look at this new web thing. Ooh, cool. No. It was, I need to see your general manager. I need their general manager, sales manager, your parts manager, your service manager, first meeting.
Yes.
And we're going to knock some heads and we're going to get all the horrible skeletons out in the closet.
Let's get them all
because one time Jeff sold it to the sales department and screwed over Bob in the sales department that one time.
It got installed on the wrong vehicle.
Yeah, Clyde came in and installed it on the wrong vehicle. So that one time. So we were like the consulting company. We should have changed ours the one time.
Yes.
Right? The one time, no more accessories. So in 2012, we made that massive change. And we've been on that track of consulting first, really until 2020. I mean, now we've flipped the script back, and now we are more content and content syndication. So what's really cool is in 2020, we rolled out an API, right place, right time, because we had already conversations with digital retail partners who were already receiving data from us, and they wanted to enhance the experience because, well, everybody was buying a car at home.
But digital retailing is actually kind of a perfect example of what you were just talking about, because digital retailing is a process.
Yeah.
It's a technology second, but a process first.
Right.
But that's cool. You guys made that transition. Now it's really open out there. We're going to help this new buying experience.
Yes, 100%. And so that's for the digital dealer. That's what my session was about. Was sort of the, 3 things that you can really promote in helping to bridge this gap, because we are, like you said, it's a process. And look, digital retailing was around before COVID.
I was doing digital retailing before it was called digital
exactly.
Because it was a process.
Exactly.
Now we have technology that helps us support the flow, the linear flow of the process.
And so what we've done and what we've worked to do in this process is in that flow that you just talked about. We talk about a sort of a train trip.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
And so now, instead of accessories being the Pepsi or Coke or peanuts on the way, right? Would you like a refreshment on your way to buying the car?
Yep.
Now it's, okay, we're having a stop. Oh, we're stopping at the accessory stop. Okay, Let's get out of the train. let's look around, let's see what we like for our car, let's put it on the car, and then let's get back on the train and go to the next step.
Well, and it's funny that you say that it's that stop. For me in my dealership, I physically made it a stop.
Yeah.
I actually had an accessory lounge.
Awesome.
And before you could go write a deal, you had to take your visit to the accessory lounge.
Nice.
And it was a great place where you could sit down.
Where were you? Why couldn't I carbon copy you in 2012? Jeez.
Well, that's because
you'd have saved me a hell of a lot of money if I could have just promoted you.
That's because when I was a salesperson, I got a taste for it, and I'm like, this tastes good.
That's fantastic.
But you know what? I know we're getting towards the tail end because we're about to turn in here to the hotel. But you know, for the people out there that are watching, listening right now, and they want to start building out that process or building out that accessory stop.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What advice would you give them?
Well, two things. The old way, or the sort of the classic way that you did and everybody does with success, is sell the car, then present the accessories as a addition in between selling the car and going to F&I. It was a great transition to F&I.
Yeah, nice
because
enhancement.
it kept the buyer in the buying mode. It kept them on that buying high. It continued to have them invest in the vehicle that they're about to get an F&I with.
Exactly.
And then
closing ratio went up.
Exactly. You're setting up your closer to sell warranty. Well, with all these accessories, you want an extended warranty? It's a laydown, you know? Which was funny because I always like to argue with finance managers because they were our first line of, no, stay out of our lane, right? Because they saw the hard ads as a way to get rid of the soft ads. And I'm like, are you out of your mind? I'm setting you up for success. I'm giving you hard ads that you can then come back on the backside and say, yeah, don't you want to cover that with extended warranty? It's a laydown. I can do that, and I'm an English major, and you're a closer. You know, so it was always a fun argument. So that's the classic way it was done, and that will remain as long as there is that process that brings the customer into the showroom to go into F&I. Now, with digital retailing, the big change here is that what's happening is they're going to select accessories as they're selecting the car, which is what's so cool, right? And it's not optional. That's the big process change here. You don't have a salesperson that gets in the way and that goes, I don't want to show accessories to this guy. You know, he's like a 650 Beacon. There's no way this is going to happen. And I'll tell you another funny story. It's kind of like where the guy came in and wanted to buy all the accessories of the truck. I trained this finance manager, and he gave me every reason he was not going to do this. Every single reason there is in the book. And I said, look, man, just try it just once, right? Just give me one shot at it. So he says, okay. I leave the store, literally 2 hours later, I get a call. He's like, you are not going to believe this. He gives me the story that he's talking to a guy. He's selling a guy, low Beacon score, right? Was barely getting him financed. The guy at the last minute goes, I want this, this, and this. Tonneau, same kind of thing. Tonneau cover this. And this guy's going, there's no way. And he goes, oh, and I'm paying cash for the accessories. $1,200 on the table in cash right then and there.
There you go.
He was like, holy, you know what? So anyway.
It's amazing when you bet it into the process.
Exactly. So that's what's
happens.
so great about this next phase is in the digital retailing process, it's not an option, right? It's a stop along the train tracks. And that excites the hell out of us because now we are syndicating our information out into those spaces. We're allowing customers to experience our technology, our content for the benefit of the dealership to sell the stuff that they have sitting in their parts department that they want to sell anyway.
But it makes it an experience, enhances the experience as long as you commit to the process. David, for everybody out there that's watching and listening right now and maybe love to connect with you, maybe learn more about the company,
awesome.
Even follow along with your journey, what's the best way to do so?
So for me personally, look me up on LinkedIn, David Stringer. The company's name is Insignia Group. So you can always go to insigniagroup.com. And we're on social media. We're on Facebook. We've got a great team, so please reach out to us. We'd love to talk to you.
Awesome, man. Thanks for doing
this. Thank
this.
you very much. I really appreciate it. Yes, sir.
Thanks for tuning in to the Strategy with Jason podcast with your host, Jason Harris. Don't want to miss new content? Be sure to check out the full podcast library at strategywithjason.com to stay in the know. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Happy podcasting.